Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. I am Marcus Holmes, HR Passion Guy, and it's my pleasure and a privilege to bring you yet another installment of Passion Fridays, where we talk about passionate topics, passionate people, or things that we're passionate about. And today happens to be Bosses Day. So, to every boss around the world, happy Bosses Day to you, to all of you that are leaders and make it happen within your organizations or within your own organization. Maybe you're the boss of one. Happy Bosses Day to you. And so we'll be giving some shout outs and celebrations to some folks. I'm going to just check across platforms because we are streaming live on Restream, through Restream, rather, on LinkedIn Live, on Facebook Live, both on the Marcus R. Holmes page and the Love and Stuff page, and also on Twitch TV and YouTube events. So drop in the comments that you are here with us and wherever you are, what the temperature is like where you are on this Bosses Day. So I am in the Northwest Detroit area and I awakened to the temperature on my phone saying 36 degrees out on the porch. And so I will assume that we are almost fully into fall. We are fully in the fall in this area, but where are you? And what is the weather like in the area in which you are? I'd love for you to share with us what is the weather like where you are. And I'm just checking with folks that have joined us. Renee Clark is on our uh, Marcus R. Holmes page. If you'll just drop in the chat where you are and what the temperature is like where you are on this Bosses Day. All right, Darrell Ward, thank you, sir. He's in New York City and it's 55 degrees. I'll borrow that, sir. I will borrow that. Thank you for that. If you'll just drop in the comments where you are and what the temperature is like. And today, it's kind of, we're going to open it up a little bit to you because we want you to give shouts out to your boss, maybe your current boss or your favorite boss or memorable boss story. If you're interested in sharing with us, drop in the comment that I'm interested, or you can inbox me on any of these platforms and we'll send you the link where you can share with us here live on Passion Fridays. And so I've invited a couple of uh, folks to join me for tributes, and we will hopefully they will be joining us shortly so that we can share with them. But I do want to. Uh, I just was doing some of the math, and believe it or not, about almost 30 years ago. It's like 27 years ago. Um, about 27 years ago is when I was first introduced to this personnel and human resources. And I remember in those early days, I worked for a venture funding company, venture capital funding company. Uh, and there was a director of human resources there who gave me an early exposure to human resources. Um, and I've always, in every capacity, have always worked with people, even though I've had opportunities to work in a lot of different capacities in companies pretty early on, as most young people might. And uh, during that time, all of those opportunities would always migrate me to people. It would always bring me to people. And so this savvy human resources director recognized that. And I just made a mental note of it. I didn't know much about human resources, hadn't thought of it. Uh, I thought more of just being in management and not the human resources management because it didn't seem to be a very popular area or place for men, not necessarily in African American men at that time, not really, not a lot. Even today, I would say it's more woman dominated than men, though there are men in the industry and maybe not as many African American men. But I worked for a food service company. And while working for that food service company, I was an operations management trainee, is what they called it. And there was the daughter of the owners. It was a family-owned business. So one of the daughters, I guess, of the founders was an attorney. And she had a keen eye for everything. And she, as I did my rotations in buying and sales and customer service and um, shipping, receiving, and logistics, as I did my rounds in this operations management trainee, she says, "Boy, I want to show you something about personnel." Um, I did an accounts receivable, accounts payable, the personnel. And so I got to sit in on interviews, and she said, "Well, what do you think of this person? Here's what I think you should look for." And she would give me all of these tips. And I was kind of fascinated because I'm fascinated in general with people. And so she said, you have a keen eye for the detail in people. Here's what you should look when you are looking for people. Here's what you should look when people are coming out of the service. And here's what you should look for when people have are returning citizens. And here's what you should look. So she gave me all of these things, and I started to jot them down. And one day we had a conversation. She said, "Well, you could be an attorney," because, that was still one of my dreams. She said, "But you could have a formidable career in personnel or human resources." And that started kind of this thought and this path down the journey of human resources. And so here I am, some 27 years later, 17 with the city and 10 or so some other places, but more 24, 25 formally in human resources roles. And so here I am all of these years later, and I can remember her and many other bosses that I would pay homage to on Bosses Day. So I'm looking and seeing that we've got some other folks that have joined us. And drop in the comments where you are and what the temperature is like. We're across platforms through Restream on LinkedIn Live, on Facebook Live, on Twitch TV, on YouTube events. So please feel free to join us. Thank you, Reginald Stewart, Linda Allen, Kim God is My Hero Jones, Felix Holmes, Marilyn Hamilton Nelson, Darrell Ward, all of you that have joined us. I'm hopeful that you will click share and tag some of your colleagues, because what we're doing is kind of opening up the opportunity for you to give a shout out to your favorite boss. I've been blessed to have some good bosses, and I think every boss brings to you a lesson. There are some bosses, give me some likes if you agree with us. There are some bosses who taught you what not to do. Anybody ever had a boss that you said, "When I become a leader, I will not lead in that regard"? And whether or not you like their style or their personality, you learn something from that boss that makes you say, "Hey, I learned a lesson of what not to do." All right, Kim God is My Hero Jones is pulling out one of my favorite people as her boss. Hello, Aria Moody. Thank you so much. She says, Kim God is My Hero Jones says, "Lee Stevenson, he was the first executive to acknowledge my hard work. He's a gentleman who keeps his word when he told me that if you work hard, I'll promote you." I learned a great deal from him. I'm trying to read, click the see more. Okay. And he has a special place in my heart. Excellence. Yes. And she says, "Yes, Lord, I had a few." Anybody else? I'm just trying to make sure everything is going well on LinkedIn, because it looks like you're spiraling. I'm trying to watch all of these platforms in one place. Yes, you may have had bosses that, you didn't quite agree with their way of doing things or their way of interacting with people. And there were lessons in those things. And so I'm thinking of, most of my bosses, my direct bosses in human resources, have been women. I had a couple men, and I think a couple of men that I was directly reporting to. There were other male leaders in human resources, but um, I think I've only had two that I directly reported to at that time. Boy, is this fooling. I'm not sure what's going on. Okay. Uh, and one of them is Dwayne Yule, a great guy. I'm going to do it this way, because I'm do it this way. Hello. Hello. Oh, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. I wanted to just get a few moments of your time to say Happy Bosses Day to you. Um,
Thank you.
and thank you for this beautiful picture of yourself. You will probably write me up because you're live on LinkedIn Live.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I didn't think I would be able to get you on any other way. So I thought I got to
You had to
trick you
trick
to get
me.
you
Oh
on
my goodness.
to
Oh
be
my
able
goodness.
to tell all of the communities that I'm connected to, this is my boss and one of my favorite bosses to date. One of my favorite bosses to date. And I have no qualms about saying that publicly. She's a brilliant attorney and she has the largest heart I think I've seen in any boss that I've ever had the experience with. She has a grace for people. Her heart is people first. She's process oriented, believe you me, but she is people first. And I think that if there were a badge that I would have done today, I would give that to her. She should be the chief people officer. She's the chief policy officer for the city of Detroit, doing phenomenal work and far more than any officer probably has ever been called to do. She does it all, is tasked always to do it all. But I would give her the badge that says people first because she has a grace for people. She has a keen insight into the heart of people to give them the grace and advocacy that they need. And I think everyone should have that in a boss. And so I'm so excited that she's here in part. You see her picture, and that's who she is. I hope you see her picture live. I'm looking at my screen. I don't see it, but that's okay. Um, it's Kim Hall Wagner. And so happy Bosses Day to you. And I just want to ask you, I won't keep you long, but I do want to ask you, do you have a favorite boss and something that you have taken from that boss that you use in your leadership arsenal? Who might that favorite boss be, or a favorite boss? And what have what tool or lesson or style have you incorporated into your leadership?
Wow, Marcus. Well, first of all, for the surprise, thank you very much and for your kind words. I really do have a heart for people, and I think that is what has helped me, just grow and become the type of leader that I am. Yes, this is indicative of who I am in terms of being behind the scenes and not needing nor desiring the limelight. But certainly, I want to help others shine. So I think that's what has helped me. So thank you for acknowledging that.
Yes.
Um, my favorite boss, I think I have two.
Okay.
My Aside from my current one, obviously I have to, I love my current boss, Denise Starr, and I just gave her wonderful kudos and a card. But my two favorite, I think, of all time, one is very unique. The other is Valerie Colbert Osunwede.
Okay.
And Valerie was my boss when I was a budding attorney for the City of Detroit's law department in the employment law section.
Mhm.
And I had just come out of a difficult situation in private practice, which I said I'll never go back. Now, I might change my mind 30 years later, but Valerie, I think the biggest positive thing that I can think about for Valerie is that she trusted me. She
Mhm.
allowed me to grow because she allowed me to work. She
Mhm.
wasn't a micromanager. She gave feedback when I needed it, and she trusted me. And that just, helped me grow tremendously. Even when I didn't want to do things, she said, "No, you can do it. I believe in you." Even when I didn't believe in myself, that trust to this day has gone a long way for me, and it's what I try to do with other people. I try to trust that folks, are professionals and they know their work, and where needed, I will come in and assist. But I give folks full autonomy to do their work. So she definitely has been a significant influence. And the other is my dad.
Mm.
He was the assistant chief of police for the city of Detroit, and I just grew up in the police department, and I just really admired how many folks, even though he was really, really strict, how much they just loved working for him.
Mhm.
And I think it was his heart. He kept it real, he kept it honest, and he loved his people. He didn't mind them shining. He didn't mind giving them, praise and accolades were needed. And I just grew up wanting to be somebody like my dad. So
Mhm.
those two, I think, would be my favorite bosses.
Those are awesome examples, and I can see why, and I can see what they imparted into you, because you definitely are a person who has the reputation. People love you and love to work with you. What would you say to bosses today, um, who, you're not attention seeking, you're not, camera seeking, sometimes camera shy, but not camera seeking. What would you say to bosses today who just don't feel that appreciation for them being a boss? What would you say to a boss who may not feel that appreciation?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was on mute. Um, for those who don't have you saying for those that don't have an appreciation for their
That
role?
they don't feel appreciated as a
I
boss.
I see. Well, I mean, it's tough. You want to be acknowledged on some level, but I feel like I'm thoroughly satisfied by the work I do. Um, and I'm probably not the best person to answer this because it kind of makes me cringe when I do get acknowledgments.
Mhm.
I'd rather get that acknowledgement as we're going through the work, to see it succeed, to see the impact of a policy that I've written, or, to see. I've loved kind of learning about smart sheets and seeing something I've developed and it's working with no complaints. I mean, even
Mhm.
though they may not say, "Hey, Kim made this," but the fact that it's working, every time I see it happen almost daily, I really say, "Hey, I did that." So I kind of do it for myself. I love to see the people that I lead succeed. Um, I love to see them attain whatever goals they're trying to get to. So it's really less about the accolades for me and just really watching the other folks shine because so many people have poured into me and I just want to be there for other folks.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And before I let you go, because I know I've surprised you, I've caught you off guard,
Yes.
but I appreciate your coming on and sharing some moments from Boss's Day. What's the part of your passion, personal or professional, that fills you up the most?
Oh wow. Uh what fifth? Okay, my personal passion. Well, you know me. I've identified that I'm not textbook, right? And so I don't fit into any preconceived notion of what an attorney should be or what a policy development person should be. And I personally feel like when I can identify a gap or a need, and I can find a way to either connect people to fix that, or if I can design a process, or even, I love designing physical spaces. If I can design something that makes people more comfortable or bridges over that gap so that they can continue to work or feel or, thrive, that is what really gives me a high. So yes, furniture, workspace planning, but also, hey, there's a gap in this process. We could do this way quicker by skipping this step. So any kind of gap solution is really what I love.
Okay, wonderful. And in case someone wants to learn more about Kimberly Hall Wagner, they can follow you on LinkedIn or Blush Designs, can they not?
We are not on LinkedIn, but I think we will be after this.
Okay, very good. Thank
Yes.
you so much, Kimberly Hall Wagner. I
All
hope you have
right.
a fantastic day and
Thank
you
you.
are a boss extraordinaire. Happy, happy Bosses Day.
Okay. Thank you so much, Marcus. Enjoy your
Thank
day.
you. All
Uh-huh.
right. All right. That was my boss, Kimberly Hall Wagner. And I wanted you to hear her, if not see her, as I celebrate this Bosses Day. Valerie Colbert Osamwadi just joined, and you missed the tribute that Kimberly Hall Wagner made to you. So I hope that you will come back and see that. Those of you that have had a favorite boss, give me a like across platforms. Thank you, Jelani Bransford, for joining us here on LinkedIn. Hey, my guy, click. Thank you, Val, for sharing that back to her. If you're interested in giving a shout out to your boss or your favorite boss of all time, give me a like, let me know. I'll drop the link in the comments so that you can come live and share with us. Ginger Henry has joined us. Jones Love, good day to you. Thanks to Mook Scruggs. Thank you, Jeanette Stewart. Thank you all. We are just giving shouts out. Today is Bosses Day. And so we're giving shouts out to bosses. I just shouted out my boss, Kimberly Hall Wagner, who is an advocate, who has a heart of gold, a heart for people, a heart of grace, I call it. And I wanted to shout her out on this Happy Bosses Day. And she shouted out one of her favorite bosses who happened to join the comments or join us live, join the community in Valerie Colbert Osamwedi. So I'd love to drop in the link so that you'll have the opportunity, if you're interested, to just share about your boss. Let me make sure I have copied the right link. My favorite boss, Brenda Braceville and Terry Hills Renshaw. All right, I want you to tell us why. I'm gonna drop the link in the comment. Come live with us. Just tell us why these are your favorite bosses. Why these are your favorite bosses. I'd love to have you join us here live. All right. Give me just 1 second so I can make sure it's across all platforms. I'm so thankful for those of you that are on YouTube events. Drop in the comments whether or not you're celebrating Bosses Day in your country. How do you acknowledge bosses in your country? How do you acknowledge bosses in your country? All right, just checking these comments. How do you celebrate bosses where you are? Okay. And if you want to come live, I'm going to just check the comments. Here's the link for you to join me live. So I hope that you will. If you're interested in joining me live, I'm just going to double check the comments across all platforms. I see the links populating, so there you have it. All right. Just to give a shout out to your favorite bosses. And then another favorite boss of mine, and I've invited some of my bosses, but another favorite boss of mine, kind of earlier on in human resources, I had the opportunity for a small automotive supplier to be the director of human resources there for about almost 400 people in 2 facilities. We were more like a job shop for Chrysler, for what we did for Chrysler. And her name is Jacqueline Floyd. And Jacqueline Floyd was the owner, African-American female owner of that company. And she had this gigantic heart of grace, similar to how Kim has. And she taught me a lot about integrity, a lot about showing up as who you are and being that person every day, all the time, so that people understood what the lines and boundaries were of which you may or may not cross. And that was a powerful lesson that I learned from her that I've tried to carry forward with me even into this day. Valerie Colbert Osamwedi is joining us. And that was a powerful lesson. All right. So I think we're getting a little feedback if you got me on a different device. Hello, Val Colbert Osamwedi.
Hello.
I was going to do a shout out. You've never been my boss, but then I thought if I do a shout out, then other people who have never been my boss will feel bad. Feel bad. But you know, I love and adore you mostly for your mind, but for who you are as a person. But I just love your mind. And that's why I always am in Val's office. Now I'm not anymore because we can't be in the office. But I always, when I am either fed up, I must admit, or when I need to be lifted up in my thinking, because sometimes you can be in situations, I can't have Kim all day, every day. Everybody else wants her too. And so then sometimes I need somebody else that can help lift my thinking up and challenge my thinking, because I think that's important. I don't think you can grow if you're just always around the same people and none of them are thinking. Not that I don't have people who think, but I'm saying
Yeah.
it's a different kind of thing. And so I relish that. I really do. There are times I go in for that. I'm like, I didn't want to go today, but I'm going to go talk to Val. And we're going to talk about something that is going to challenge my mind. I'm going to bring some of these people say crazy ideas and bring them to Val and say, I want to do this. And she said, oh, I like that. I like this part of that. And we can then dissect it and so, because that's part of what I'm supposed to do, help fill in these gaps and bring some of the vision forward. And so oftentimes I'm able to bounce that off of you. So happy Bosses Day to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Though I know I'm not a formal part of your team, but we're all one team, I think, at the city. How does it feel? Because Kim is saying that you gave her, one of the things she valued most about you is that you trusted her. How does that feel to hear that? How does that feel to hear someone come back and say, thank you, because you trusted me? And how important to you is trust to the relationship?
Oh, extremely important. And I'm always glad when Kim, because she constantly tells me that what she appreciated about me as a boss, and it always reminds me to continue to do that, and when I run across people who are no longer with the city and they were in my group, and they tell me that was one of the best jobs I ever had. And because of your being in charge of the section, it just really, really makes me feel great, because I put my two favorite bosses probably with the city. You probably had another one too. If I had to pick one when I was interning too, with the law department, I would probably say Deborah Ross Adams, who used to be a judge. But all of these women, in particular, Terry Renshaw basically was my chief, okay? And she kind of showed me what it was, how to run that section. And she also had this philosophy that if you don't tell me what you've done wrong, I can't fix it and I can't support you. I can't get in front of it for you. So she always was making sure the lines of communication was open, whether you think you messed up or not, And so that was a philosophy that I really appreciated about her, because she really did stand by her employees. Whatever decisions or things they may have done, she stood by them, and helped you through whatever issues that you had. So that was one great feature of Terry. But Brenda Braceful, I just love Brenda. Brenda was my deputy corp counsel, and I was a direct report to her. And as a young lawyer, before she was even my boss, I just love the fact that she was a teacher. She was a mentor. She always had time to answer your questions. She was always challenging you to do something, stretch yourself. She taught by example. She was a hard worker. She had enthusiasm for what she did. All of that was just infectious. And it just made me a better young lawyer and also a better leader. And I just can't say enough about Brenda. She's a fantastic person. And she was just a great boss. She listened to you. Yes. She values your opinions. She said, I like it, go with it. She trusted you. And I could just, she was just great. So she definitely was one of my favorite bosses in the city of Detroit. So I can't say enough about her. So I was blessed to have good leadership, throughout my formative years with the city.
And you also mentioned in your comment another name, Terry Hills Renshaw.
Terry Hales Renshaw. That's who I was saying. She was the one who said, if you don't tell me what's happening, I can't stand with you. I can't get in front of it with you. If you've made a mistake, I need to know. Don't be afraid to come in and say, oh, I forgot to file that motion, or I didn't do X, Y, and Z, so that she could stand with you and help you kind of direct you through and correcting a situation. But she was another one that, you have the tools, you have the tools and you have the skill set, and I trust you, to go out there and do what you need to do, So I was fortunate, or have been fortunate, to never have. She was a little bit more of a micromanager than Brenda, but not too much of a micromanager. So I was fortunate to have leaders that allowed you to do your thing, do what you've been trained to do, and so in that sense, I've had great bosses at the city.
Yeah.
So shout out to them. I don't know. Carrie probably won't see this, but maybe Brenda will. And
I'm hoping
she's
so.
just,
I'm
yeah,
hoping so.
yeah. She's just a fan. She just was a fantastic boss. So I've appreciated her throughout the years.
Yeah. And Val, what would you offer for newer bosses who are coming on the scene? What kind of advice might you offer to them today?
For sure, listening. Make sure you listen to your team. Make sure that you have present an attitude of openness. People know that you are open to their ideas, their thoughts, allowing them the opportunity to feel comfortable enough to not only tell you about their accolades, but their mistakes too, and trusting you to help them through, not quash them, but help them through the mistake and to learn from it. Sometimes you do have to quash, but for the most part you don't. And just having that kind of openness to your to the people that you supervise, the people that you manage, that you're there to help them grow through everything. Not only just successes, but failures too. You learn from failures and make people know that, yeah, failure is also a tool for learning, So I think that's one thing. Always make sure that that's an attitude that you portray to the people that you are mentoring and supervising. I like the term mentoring rather than supervising, but that you are mentoring. And I think you will get positive results all the time. So, and I'm a type of person that leads by example. I don't ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do or haven't done. So I definitely lead by example.
Yeah. And before I let you go, and thank you so much for coming, what's the one thing that most fills you up or most gives you passion, professionally or personally? What gives you the most passion?
Oh my goodness. I love the law. I love anything that challenges me to think about things in legal context. I love the law. So I absolutely have a passion for the law. So I can fit that into almost anything. So that's really, my boat, the educational route and my professional route that I chose, I truly love it. And I love to talk about it. I love to talk about it with people lay people and professionals. I really love the law. Now, what gives me joy and passion is really my family. I love my family. I love my daughter. I only have one daughter, and I love her to death, to life. Let's put it that way. So now I see her becoming a professional and just stepping out, and that's bringing me joy, to see her going out on her own and kind of taking some of my lessons and and making them her own, and then
Yeah.
creating her own path. That's exciting to me. It's always exciting to me to see young people, and then and especially my daughter, going out there and forging their own path, because to me the sky is the limit. I tell her this is the best time to just explore. So that gives me joy. And like I said, I just love my family, and that gives me joy. But professionally, I love the law. So there's not anything too much that doesn't excite me more than just listening to this whole Supreme Court justice nonsense, and reading reading opinions, reading books that are talked about the law, being able to, we've chatted about things about the law. Like I said, I have a passion for it, and I can talk about it all the time.
Well, we're definitely going to have you back to talk about that Supreme Court issue and packing of the court, or all of those things connected. So we would love to have you back. Love your mind. Love you. Have a happy Bosses Day. Enjoy your day. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Let me see how to leave here. Okay. Thanks, Marcus. Thanks for doing this for us. Okay.
One of my faves, Valerie Colbert Osunwady, and she is a phenomenal mind, and you'll get a chance to hear more from her on this platform as well, as we talk about the things that we're passionate about. We are passionate about what's happening in our world, what's happening in our court system, what's happening in this two-party, multi-party system. Stay tuned for more of that, and thank you, Val. And we're just taking shouts out from you. I've invited a few others, but I dropped the links in the comments for you to give a shout out to your boss, maybe current boss or former boss, to give a shout out to them on this Bosses Day. It's Bosses Day. And if you are just joining us, as Craig, Whitney Davis, and Annette Green on one platform, if you're joining us, here is another person that I wanted to join us. Give us a shout out so that we can share it with you about your boss. And I believe I have Alicia Bradford joining me.
Hey, Marcus. I'm sorry.
Hello,
I'm so late.
No, that's okay. Thank you so much for coming and taking some time out. Happy Bosses Day.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you thinking of me today too. And happy Bosses Day to you too.
Well, thank you so much. I thought about you because I was thinking about not just the bosses that have been direct bosses for me, but because of working relationship, the bosses that I've had the opportunity to see them in action as bosses. And so among that list of people, of course, came front to mind Alicia Bradford, who is the director of Parks and Rec for Wayne County and former director for recreation, former human resources professional. And from the first time I met her, her professionalism caught me, her personality caught me, but also her relationships, her stock of relationships that she had built in the organization and continues to build. And I think it's an important facet of you, because I think you do a really, really great job, among many things, Alicia, as being a boss of advocacy. I've watched you go to the ends for your people, go to the wall for your people, and open up your resources so that they would have the connections that they need to get things done. And you can do that very well if you've built relationships to be able to call upon to do that. And I've watched you do that time and time again. And so that's why I wanted to salute you today among the bosses, because I've had the opportunity to observe you in what I will call great times and I will call turbulent times. And it's been the same person. So I want to ask you, how important is it to you that leaders are the same person without regard to what's happening in the environment? How important is that to you?
Well, Marcus, first, let me thank you. You got me over here. I'm like almost teary, just humbled by it all. Because I had some good examples as far as leadership, and I've had some bad examples, but we're still good examples
Mhm.
as far as leadership. And it's very important that you have the same level of leadership during the ups and the downs, consistent leadership, and including personality, including, the exchange of people skills, and definitely
Mhm.
including, ability to make decisions and an ability to admit mistakes and then correct them and move forward. So it's really important for me to have that example. Of course, I report to boss, and then, I have a county executive as my ultimate boss, but I have another level of supervision that I report to. So just looking at the example of leadership and know what works for me as far as having someone that I can receive direction from, having my expertise, but also will kind of motivate me to grow and become better or learn different things, or to have me think some other ways that maybe I haven't even presented before. We can always learn. Just because we reach the level of leadership does not mean we know everything. And I always say, does not mean I have the magic wand. I definitely don't.
Mhm.
I think all of it's
Yeah.
done in a measure of getting information. I think all of it is engaging your team. You have to get their input and listen to them. And then
Mhm.
make the best possible decision you can. And so it's really important, like you said, Marcus, very important to
Mhm.
have that even keeled, and not saying that it might be some days that you might not be a little up, because some days may call for you to be a little up,
Mhm.
but just having that consistent where you know what you're dealing with on a daily basis.
Mhm.
You don't have to guess who's coming in the door today.
Yeah.
You know, you know who you're gonna get.
You know who you're gonna get. And
Right.
one thing you mentioned was the second thing, as a part of my observation of you, you have a love for learning. I remember, we used to have these op meetings every other week,
Mhm.
and I guess my
Yeah.
first or second op meeting, I would notice you just be writing. You would be taking notes, of course, but you would be writing down. And I later asked you, I don't know if you remember this. I said, "Now, what are you writing?" She said, "And when I hear a word that's used differently, or a word that I haven't used, I just write
Mhm.
it down." And I
Mhm.
said, "Oh, let me
Mhm.
start doing that." Because, I love words, but
Mhm.
what it taught me about you, Alicia, and it's true through and through, you love to learn. You are a person that
Mhm.
loves to learn new things. You love to learn about what's being in the know of what's happening. Okay, how can I connect that to this? So I want to ask you a little bit about that, this love to learn as a leader, because I don't think we think of leaders often as people who need motivation or who need to grow or who are somebody's employee. We see them just as the end all cure all, but there has to be some, in order for there to be a culture of learning, the leader has to be intimately engaged and involved in that. So I want to ask you about that, and then ask you to share a little bit about who were some of your examples of leadership
Mhm.
that you would give kudos to. But first, to this learning of love that I think it was the second meeting. I was like, first meeting, I was like, I like her. And then the second meeting, I, tried to sit a little closer because I'm like, okay, she's taking good notes. I'm gonna take her notes. And then after asking, you were like, yeah, just right. Somebody might use a word that I'm like, now that ain't how you use that word, but let me just see why they did that. And I love
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
about you. It was
Mhm.
always about learning. So talk a little bit about your love to learn and uh, uh, how that's important to the culture of your team and organization.
So thanks, Marcus. As I think about, I think all of us at some point probably, kind of assess where we are. And, I always thought of, career goals, but also just the personal type of goal is just trying to get as much information as I can, particularly in my field, but not only my field, just kind of stretch out a little bit from that, but particularly in the
Mhm.
field as you're leading people. One, you can't give direction if you're working with old methodology. You can't
Mhm.
give direction if you're looking at old practices. So you have to stay on the pulse of the trends of the industry.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean you have to adopt them all, but you
Mhm.
can't really lead how you should lead if you're not informed. And I don't
Mhm.
discount anybody. They may not have the opportunity to further their education. So I'm not saying anything about anybody that has not or taken advantage to do learning opportunities. But there are other ways to learn besides getting a master's degree or getting a
Mhm.
PhD. And I applaud those that have.
Mhm.
There's seminars, free seminars. It's just networking,
Mhm.
talking to other colleagues in the industry who can share information with you to how to do something differently or do something better or improve upon. So, that is very important as, I lead the team, and I don't really like lead, as I work with the team as we work together to improve the park system and programming and opportunities for the community. I think it's really important that, I have some knowledge, and that I can share and impart that knowledge to them as well, so they can look at how we can do things differently, how they can take their own niche of expertise of design or of programming, of technology and whatever, and to see what we can do to improve upon it. So, I'm always, my husband is trying to push me to go an additional layer in school. I told him my mind is old. I think I'm tired. I'm doing something now in school, working on something else. And so then I said, I think after that, I'm gonna be done. And he's like, no, it'd be cool, to call you Dr. B or Dr. Bradford. And I'm like, nah, bruh, and I don't know about that. But, that might be something that I look to. But if I don't, does not mean that I won't start learning in some way, fashion or another, just to improve personally, but definitely professionally, to be the best that I can be for my team.
Yeah.
And
That's great.
then your second question about some good examples of leadership that I had. Yeah,
Yeah.
that I, admire.
Yeah.
So, and I take the bad ones too as good examples. You know what I'm saying? It
Yeah.
just depends on how you
Yeah.
look at that.
That's so true.
But I think some really good folks I had. One, and I have to say that, me, Marcus, I speak very candidly, and then tell me if I'm talking too much. But starting when I received my bachelor's degree and going into the human resource field, and I had one example, and she was different, but I did like her leadership style because she was one that engaged and one that poured into me and helped me grow. And that was Yvonne Seymour. And just, I'm going to say it like I said, it would be strange. You wouldn't think a white woman would embrace a Black woman like that, but she did. And saw something in me and poured into me and helped to elevate me professionally and personally. She was one. We had different styles in different ways sometimes, but she respected me and I respected her. And she had a genuine love for HR, and I think a genuine love for me in that regard. So Yvonne was one. Then I had another one, Marcel McGee. He's another one. I was Belial. He was another one, just poured, and I have to, Ernie Burking, Alberta Wilburn, Lauren Jackson, those three, as far as definitely recreation, and I'm probably forgetting some, but they helped on the trajectory of what I wanted to do in recreation. And just, again, seeing something, not looking at me as a competition, not looking at me trying to be better than them, but seeing something in me to help me go to the next level. And they certainly did that. And then working for a number of mayors, you can say what you want. I like Kwame Malik Kilpatrick. You can say what you want, but Kwame Malik Kilpatrick was in a sense, just that level of leadership for me. Like I said, you can say what you want and how he made some moves, but I'm just thinking of how charismatic, learned, and lifted his people up, and checked you when you needed to, but didn't embarrass you. And so, I had some really great examples and some bad ones. I won't name them right now, but bad ones, but they still prove to be good because they just show me on how I don't want to be. Yeah.
So that's one of the things I don't want to ask you the names of the bad, but I want to ask you what's a good lesson that you gained from one of those maybe not so good bosses? Because I think you raised a great point, and it was one that I was hoping would be raised here, is that you can learn some of the most powerful lessons from a boss that you deem as bad or not your favorite boss. So what lesson may you share with us that you learned maybe from not so good a situation that you say is a lesson that you learned that you carry forward with you today?
One, respect your team. Respect, you may be the director, the department head, you may be the group executive, whatever the case may be. Respect your team. You're automatically going to get the respect because of the position, but it still goes another layer. You have to have a mutual, genuine respect, and you have to demonstrate that to your team. Respecting your team and their expertise. I've worked with some that did not do that. That wouldn't, allow decisions to be made, even though you've attained a certain level. They treated you like you were a novice to this. So respecting the team that I've seen, and looking at other perspectives, everybody that's trying to do better is not in competition with you. Everybody that's, trying to do something more significant in their career is not in competition with you, or is not any offense to your leadership. As a leader, you should want your team to grow, develop, and look to stretch out. Of course, you can have a team that moves on because you've been the worst type of boss. But in most cases, you want to create the atmosphere that I want you to grow. I want to keep you here, retain you here, but you want your team to develop and feel that they've gone gained skill and moved to go somewhere else and share the talent that they have. So I'll just say those two things really have been key. Just respect and listening. Respect and listening, and not seeing people as competitions. Really has been the three things that stuck out with me with the uncomfortable bosses that I've had.
Yeah. I'm just going to jump to the comments before I ask you the best lesson that you've learned, and what is the one thing professionally or personally that fills you up, that is your passion in life. But before that, Katrina Reed Bland says consistency is very important. Thank you, all of those that are on LinkedIn and YouTube events. Just drop in and let us know that you are here. If you drop in the comments, then I'll know that you're here. A little different from Facebook. Charles Green, Annette Green, Tristan Harris, thank you all for joining. And we're just giving shouts out to bosses like Alicia Bradford and other bosses around the world who deserve some kudos today on Bosses Day. So if you're just joining us, click share and tag someone to engage with this content. I think you'll find some useful lessons and some great shouts out that have occurred in this time. So Alicia, what's that best lesson from a best boss? Or so one of those great bosses that you listen, what's the best lesson that you learned?
The best lesson I learned from one of those great bosses is to trust your people. Trust your people. And I use this example a lot when I'm talking to my team. And I'll say it very quickly. Years ago, we had the return of Grand Prix and to Belle Isle Park. Roger Penske, a number of leadership, wanted to have the race on the island. At the time, Lauren Jackson was the director. I was the Belle Isle Park manager. And we were all in the conference room, and Roger Penske said to Lauren, I want to fly you down to St. Petersburg, Florida, so you can see how we operate the Grand Prix. You meet presidents of various companies that we're going to bring on board to support Grand Prix on Belle Isle. And Lauren Jackson looked at Roger and said, no, you take Alicia. Alicia's the Belle Isle Park manager. And whatever she says is what it's going to be. And if she has a problem, she'll let me know. Trusting. She was the director. I was just the Belle Isle manager. But trusting that I would make the right decisions, trusting that I would keep her informed, trusting that if there was a problem, I would not look at it as a discount, like I don't know what I'm doing, but that I would look to her leadership for guidance and direction, and getting the job done. That was just, and Roger Penske got loot, what I'm saying? We're flying down in his major jet. I'm sitting here and I'm meeting with presidents of Marlboro and presidents of Firestone and getting additional funds for Belle Isle and doing those things just through those relationships, because my director was confident enough in herself that she didn't need to be there to make every point. She didn't need to be there to, walk around with the millionaire. She could lend that, trust me enough to carry out the vision and mission for the department, and that I would make the right decision.
Yeah, I love it. I love that example. Thank you. Trust is so important, and that's awesome. And And the Belle Isle Grand Prix was, one of the crown jewels for many, many years. And thank you for your hard work and effort on that. Want to make sure we get that out there. And so, what is the one thing? I know there are probably many things, but what is the one thing that most fills you up, either professionally or personally? What is your passion? What's that thing that fills you up?
The thing that really fills me up, Marcus, I think my faith and thanking God just for all opportunities, good and bad. I think my faith that fills me up, both professionally and personally. They operate in the same thing. I'm the same one here and there. And I really think that fills me up, faith, personally, just in relationships, and just trusting God, definitely still in this transition of COVID and everything that's going on. But I still think the faith and opportunity professionally to have faith in my team, have faith in what we're doing, is making a positive impact with the community and those that visit our park system and participate in our programs. And just faith that everything will get better in both cycles. So I think both, that does give me the crust. Of course, family and having good stock of friends and, a good team, all makes it better. I mean, if you look at it, it's not perfect, but it works pretty good together. And I think that is the thing that kind of gives me the passion to do the things I do, faith and making sure that everybody has just access and opportunity to, recreation and lifelong leisure opportunities, regardless of ethnicity and economics and all of that. And then definitely just making the best way that we can.
Okay. And before I let you go, Alicia Bradford, you've been a leader of teams and units. You've been a leader of teams and a leader of leaders. What would you say to new leaders that are coming on the scene about their leadership? What would you give to them, bequeath to them? Not that you're going anywhere, but what would you hand down to them to carry the baton in a way that would represent leaders well?
So thank you for that question too, Marcus, because, I'll use an example. I'll talk quick. I would just definitely say, come in and observe first. Come and observe. You don't have to tell people you're the boss. You don't have to keep saying you're the boss. They know you're the boss. Come in and observe. You don't have to walk around with the big stick. Observe, talk, engage with your team. Not, they shy away from getting too personal with your team, and I understand. But you have to have some type of personal connection in order to have your team feel that they're a part of the organization. And so I'm not saying spill all your business, but get to know your team, get to know their, like I said, the area expertise, maybe some of their, a little bit about their family, small conversations. That helps, just a level of engagement, because as part of being a leader is developing and establishing relationships. So I would tell them to come in and observe. There's nothing wrong with admitting that you don't know everything. That's where you look for the team and their level of expertise to help you learn. You're just there to help give them the right tools in order to get their jobs done, and to provide them direction based on the information that you have and the vision and goals of the organization. That's what I would tell anybody in new leadership, new supervision. And you're going to have some challenges, because you're going to have some people that resent that you're there. You may, I'm not saying that automatically is what it is, but you may have some that resent you there. You may be working with people that are your parents' age or much older than you are. And you have to be consistent, but show mutual respect regardless. Because they're older, because they've been there for years, does not mean that they don't have value and don't have systemic knowledge about, just the institution of it all. So you should take all of that in when you're doing your observation. And then as a leader, then make your changes, but don't make changes just because you want to put your name on it. Make changes that make sense. So that's what I would probably say, the key things. And I learned those through lessons. So it's not like, ooh, I've just achieved that. I made those missteps, and thankfully people thought enough of me to tell me, hey, look, you don't have to walk around with the big, we know you're the boss. You don't have to do this, being younger and in supervision. So, and I had people, but these were people that were my subordinates, but that I guess, thought enough of me and respected me enough to pull my coattail. And so you make the adjustments where needed. So I'm just sharing that. Yeah.
That's great. Alicia Bradford, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. You deserve kudos for all of your work, and I am so proud to be connected to you. Happy Bosses Day to you, and
Thank
enjoy your Friday. Enjoy your day.
Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate you. You know, you have always been one of my dear friends from that first day we met, and just who you are. And you are the same awesome boss, you know, always learning, always empowering your people. And I just appreciate all that you do as well as being a boss and being a leader and being my dear friend. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. All right. Thanks so much.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. All right, that was Alicia Bradford, Director of Parks and Recs for Wayne County here in the Metro Detroit area. And we are closing out a wonderful Bosses Day shout out. If you want to shout out in the comments, keep the shouts out going. And as anyone would tell you, when you're celebrating anything or anybody good, any relationship that you have that's worth celebrating is worth celebrating more than once a year. But it's okay to take out a special day in the year and say, happy anniversary, happy birthday, happy Bosses Day. If you have a boss who has been your staunchest advocate, who has challenged you directly and cares personally, who has provided you leadership from the edges and allowed you to use your expertise, empowered you to drive business change and business decisions and business solutions, be grateful for that boss. Not everybody has that boss. And if you have a boss that isn't quite measuring up to what your expectations are, first check your expectations and then be thankful for what you have, because it's an opportunity for you to grow in that relationship and to learn both lessons you may not do when you become a leader. But it's an opportunity for you to observe the relationship and impact the relationship for good. And so happy Bosses Day to all of the bosses. I'm just checking across the comments. Thank you those that are on YouTube events. Maybe somewhere around the world you don't celebrate it as formally or as we do in the United States, or you have a different day of celebration and way of celebration. I think bosses deserve celebration as well, because while we look for them to exclusively lead the culture, they are part of the culture and sometimes are as immersed in the culture as they are leading it. And so there should be a recognition for them as well. And some will argue the recognition is their pay. But if you understand anything about recognition, different people need different types of recognition, and some at different times along their life cycle. And so today is the day that we say, thank you, boss. Thank you, leader. Thank you, supervisor. Thank you, manager. Thank you, foreman. Thank you, team lead, for the work that you do. And that work, though it may seem to go unnoticed and maybe underappreciated, it is part and parcel of what our culture, our organization's cultures are indicative of. That it takes someone to lead the group that's rowing in the right direction together. And together, we can accomplish and drive business goals that bring products and services to our deserving customers and citizens. Thank you so much for your time today. Again, Michael Flanoil has joined us. Those that are on LinkedIn, thank you so much. I hope you will click share and tag your colleagues. I hope on Facebook, on Twitch TV, on YouTube events. Thank you all. It's been a great Passion Friday. And if you enjoy Passion Friday, inbox me or click like or click love on this live now and share it with someone as we seek to bring to you passionate people, passionate topics, and things that we are passionate about that we hope bringing together will bring some passion to you. What are you passionate about? drop in the inbox or in the comments the things that you're passionate about and that you'd like to see on Passion Fridays. And who knows, you may look up one Friday and the very thing that you're passionate about is what we're discussing. I also want to mention before I close, feel free to click to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can also go to hrpassionllc.com for more information about HR Passion LLC. And you can also go there. There is the opportunity for you to get the interviewing, behavior-based interviewing information that we're working on. We'll soon be having a 3-part series about improving your interviews using competency characteristics of motives to drive your responses in those interviews. And so if you're interested in participating in that 3-part series webinar, you can reach me on LinkedIn at Marcus R. Holmes or HR Passion LLC, fill out the contact form, or if you filled out the form for the interviewing, you got the interviewing information, we have your information and we'll send that to you, but we'll also drop it in the links if you want to have the information we shared previously on the behavior-based interviews. At the end of the 3-part series, we're going to have a live interview session where we'll give you an opportunity to answer one of the questions based on those competencies, and we'll have hiring managers and HR professionals in that room who will give you feedback, live feedback on how your responses are landing on hiring managers and HR professionals, in the hopes that when you go on your next interview, that you'll be fully prepared to win that interview and tell powerful stories that will leave a mark on those interviewers in their decision to offer a position to you. I'm Marcus Holmes, HR Passion Guy. Thank you for tuning in on Passion Friday. Again, happy Bosses Day and enjoy your day and